Hi everyone and happy Sunday. So I really couldn't make up my mind what I wanted to color for this color and chat. I knew I wanted to color out a Nutty Gnomes sometime this month, and because of my alphabet color tag, and so I actually decided on this picture with these couple little disco gnomes, and I just thought it was cute. As you can see, I had already started coloring the page and then realized I needed to close it and do all that. So basically all I had done was just take a darker marker and outline the lines on the trees. So this is just going to be a straightforward coloring for me. Marker, gel pen, a little bit of white gel pen, and then using either the same color marker or a darker marker to create like a darker outline. Just a low-key effort at shading, I suppose, just to give it a different look. Pretty much how I approach most of my marker pages at this point. So wasn't in the mood to do anything too fancy. So much has been going on that like I'm really struggling with my coloring creativity right now. I have, all these paints and everything that I want to use, but just the idea of actually getting them out and putting them on a picture just feels so exhausting right now. I did, however, start a colored pencil page out of My Summer Walk by Rita Berman. I decided I was going to demo the Castle Art Golds. I did go ahead and record it. I assume I'm going to use it in a future video. I'm just not sure when. I spent an hour and a half on it. I got the sky and the main part of the ground done, and that was it. So now it's all the detail work. And I'm not sure if I will pick back up on that today or not, because my wrist and everything feels a little sore, and I just don't know if I want to push it. I will say I've been pleasantly surprised by the pencils. I actually wasn't using a lot of real heavy pressure on them for once, and they seem to be going down and giving me a lot of really nice color. So I probably wouldn't have been able to go half that time had they not been pretty smooth pencils to use. So I guess I'm just gonna try to do a little bit of a day every day, and see how it turns out. It looks really nice so far. I was actually contemplating whether I wanted to show that today and just show you the part that I'd done, or show you an actual completed picture, and I just ended up going with the completed picture. Besides, this one's bright and fun. I unfortunately forgot I had it paused while I was coloring the green in the background, which is why it just jumped right then. So I use a combination of my Cali Arts, and these are the old school chisel fine tip Cali Arts, and my Copics. My Copics are starting to run dry. I have refills for roughly half of them, so this week I need to take some time, go through them. The half I have refills for, go ahead and get those refilled and squared away. The other half I may just have to pack away for now. It is an investment in refills for a full set of Copics. And so I may just have to pack away the others on a wait and see type of situation. But I noticed I was having some real issues, like you can see with the screen, where they were a lot streakier than they should be. And so the ones that are running out and I don't have refills for, I don't want them drying out completely, because then the tips, I can't seem to revive them no matter how hard I try. I usually have to just buy a whole new marker. So, but anyway, I hope everyone is having a good weekend. I I'm having a good weekend. I just decided to add the other light. I realized that was I'm just all over the place. I don't know. I feel just scattered and a little bit overwhelmed with life in general right now, and it's hard to feel like doing much of anything, even though there's plenty to be done. Even if I just wasn't in the mood to color, there's plenty I could be straightening up and organizing in my coloring studio, corner, office, whatever you want to call it. But of course, then I'm like, well, I don't want to do that either. So, um, yeah, I can't even remember the last time I did a coloring chat. I was commenting, I think, in yesterday's video that it was funny how this week I was like, I'm going to be short on videos, and it turns out that I had a video for every day of the week because I can't stop buying new books. There just wasn't anything with substance. It was just flip throughs. And I will have another batch of flip throughs on Tuesday. I really hadn't bought any color by number books in a long time, and so there were a couple that had come out that caught my eye. One I probably should have just went ahead and got, and I'm probably just going to wait on that one now. But couple color Questopias, one by Sacha and Sachdiva, the Llamas one, and then I can't remember what the fourth one was I grabbed. It wasn't a new release, but I'm still going to group it in with the others. So you'll have some color by number flip throughs to look forward to for Tuesday. I'm hoping Wednesday maybe I can get started on that Precious Cat, really complicated looking double page pirate spread, doing the watercolor base. And no, I scratch that. What I want to do Wednesday hopefully is some ink tints in a Magical Jungle, the tiger picture in the frame. I'm hoping to treat the page, play around with some ink tints, pencils, and I might even paint the outer edge of the page with some of my shimmer paint. I just need to figure out which color I want to use. Probably nothing fancy or earth-shattering, just your classic tiger and jungle colors. Like I said, I'm not feeling particularly creative right now in terms of color. But I realized I have not contributed much to Watercolor Summer this month, and so I kind of need to get on the ball with that. I'm hoping I can do that page and then get the watercolor layer on the Precious Cat picture either next weekend or maybe the next Wednesday as well. So, and then I might do the mid-year freakout tag the last Tuesday of the month. Obviously it's way past the middle of the year, but I may still do it. Next weekend is going to be my next coloring book collection, which is funny because I did Coloring Book Cafe yesterday, y'all, and I already have new Coloring Book Cafe books. Oh, so I don't know if I'm going to tack those on at the beginning of the video before we move on to Coloring Heaven. That might be what I do, because it's going to be hard to get through Coloring Heaven and my Creative Haven books in one segment. So we might just do that. We'll see. My presentation book's pretty much full. I think I'm going to have to use the pocket in the back for my other books that I picked up. So they have, I tell you, when they have good deals, though, they have really good deals. It was the Canadian Wildlife one they just put out. They had a digital version that you could purchase for $9.99. And if you got the digital version of that, you've got the digital version of their Forest Dreams book that just came out and their Butterflies and Flowers book. And so you got 3 books for the price of $10. And so I know, it's, like I said, my bank account's going to intervene on my behalf come September 1st. That's what I think it is in my head, I've convinced myself September 1st is the absolute cutoff date. So I better get it in now because it's going to be few and far between after that. Like, the only book I know of for sure that's coming out this year that I might get is Rooms of Wonder, and I'll have to see a flip through of that one before I decide. And if it's so, we'll have to see for sure. But a lot of other stuff is, fortunately, a lot of the other big releases aren't until the start of next year. I know that the artist that did Circle of Life has a book coming out next year called Enchanted Earth. I might put that in the description, which has caught my interest. I know she has the Nature Mandalas book, but which would be a nice to have, but isn't a must have for me because I'm not huge on mandalas. So it's a pretty book. It just eventually I'll get it, but I haven't even really colored but one picture in Circle of Life, so it's not that big a deal. And then, of course, Alien World is coming out by Kirby Rosenis next March, and that is absolutely going to happen. And I will save my YouTube money for that if I have to, because I am so excited for that one. That will probably be, other than the Fanta, is it Mythomorphia? His that might end up being my favorite book of his. Um, so what's been going on? I probably could talk more to what hasn't been going on. Um, I'm still in the process of trying to figure out a new job. I don't obviously want to talk much to this, especially give any sort of details, but my boss notified me in halfway through July that they were doing a restructuring in our group, and that my position was being eliminated because they were breaking our whole team up, and all the full-time employees, there were no full-time layoffs happening, but basically they were kept cutting back on contractors for now. And I've been there almost 10 years, so I I have feelings on that, but we'll just leave it there. But anyway, she had been trying to get answers on some of the work that I do and whether or not an extension would be put in place just until they figure out what they're doing, since some of the reports that I pull are so important to the team. And she's not been getting any answers. So basically, I've been operating under the assumption that August 31st is going to be my last day. She's actually on vacation right now, and we'll be back the last week of August. So I'll have a couple of days with her, and then who knows? And as far as other contract positions opening up within the company, there's not a lot right now. They're keeping everything just super quiet until September. And so if I end up staying with the company, it may very well be a couple months before um, any positions actually open up, um, until they figure out, I guess, what they're doing. Again, I have a lot of feelings about this, but we're not going to go into that. And so the thing is, I might have a couple months gap there if I just wait to see if they come up with anything. Um, but I'm not doing that. I am. My dad encouraged me to apply where he works, which had a lot of positions, particularly related to digital email marketing, which is what I did for like over a decade before I doing my current job. And so I applied to those. The company has a very rigorous interview process, and I made it through the first round, which was awesome because, like I said, it had been 10 years since I really had to interview for a job. So I was extremely nervous about it. And then the second round happened beginning of last week, and it was multiple days and multiple hours of interviews, and it very intense. And very stressful. but I did it, and I feel like I did well. There was only one I might have stumbled on just a little bit, one question, but for the most part, I spent a lot of time prepping and feel like I handled it well. Now it's just a matter of waiting. They're supposed to let me know within 5 business days, and so I guess that clock started ticking on Thursday. And so Thursday and Friday, I was sitting there, checking my email and my phone and stuff, and so far nothing. So I don't. I guess that means I wasn't an instant no. So so I guess that's good news. But probably I would say, even if they need a couple extra days, by the end of next week, I should know one way or another. Um, and yeah, there's a lot of pressure on this one. This is a really good. It's a really good position, really good company, good benefits. I'd be doing some real interesting work, which I hadn't. Different than what I've done the last few years. I'd be getting back kind of to my roots, and I feel like I can. The environment's very very. It's a good work life balance, but I mean they have really high expectations in the work environment. But with my experience, I don't know. I don't have an issue with that. I guess just based on what I've dealt with in the past, like that doesn't really bother me. But it just all around would be a really good thing. And so I feel like there's a whole whacking bunch of pressure. There was a whole whacking bunch of pressure on me. Still is, but I mean, right now it's officially out of my hands. So, um, y'all, seriously, I, I hate to ask, but any sort of kind thoughts, prayers, whatever, crossing your fingers, crossing your toes, crossing your legs, I don't know, whatever good thoughts y'all could throw my good thoughts y'all could throw my way, I would really appreciate it. This has just absolutely shattered my nerves, and just like I said, all the time I've spent stressing and prepping, and my brain was fried by Wednesday, which normally it's not fried till Thursday or Friday. This week it just, I was, I don't know. I feel like the last few days I've just been kind of walking around in this cloud, this fog, just because um, I had all this stuff to do and all this stuff to prep and be on point and be smart and witty and intelligent and just really really be on the ball there. And now that that's passed, it's like, now what? Like, what do I do now? And so it's just, I really don't want to have to go through that again. So there was another contract position that somebody had, another recruiter at the same company had some interest in me for, but I don't think I am qualified for that position. My recruiter tried to push me for it because she thinks I can do it, and I have no doubt I can. It's just my resume doesn't really match up with what the requirements are. So, um, but I sent along my resume and I did say I was interested. So that was about a week ago and hadn't heard anything. So that probably means nothing's going to come of that one, but that's okay. So basically, I've got a few options kind of hanging in the wind. I really should be more proactive with some other stuff, but honestly, the three different opportunities I've been kind of working on just came up so quickly, and I've been so focused on them. Um, I figure, this week I'm going to get some answers for sure, and then I can, refocus my efforts and move on to the next bit if needed. So, but I'd rather not. So if you guys, because this is really, like, I would just, this would be the most awesome opportunity for me. So, it's just been, yeah, it's been extremely nerve wracking. Um, so yeah, that's been going on. On top of that, my mom wasn't feeling well a couple weeks ago and had to go to the hospital. Went to the local hospital um, because she was having some pretty severe back pain and fluid buildup, and they didn't want to go all the way to Nashville just because her heart rate was up, and they were just worried, the length of time it would take. And though she would have much preferred to be at her hospital in Nashville where her doctor's located. And they had to wait the better part of the day for a bed. And they were even out of pillows till like later that night. Like, I think I've mentioned it in a video before. Everybody acts like everything's hunky dory right now, but I assure you, COVID is still a thing. People are still dying. People are still winding up in the hospital, and we still have shortages in the hospital due to nurses that have been overworked for 2 or 3 years and have pretty much just overworked and underpaid and have just pretty much bowed out to other careers. And I don't blame them one bit. But it is very hard to see that when then you have a relative or a family member in the hospital that needs care and there's no available beds because they don't have enough nurses. And so I don't blame the nurses in that situation whatsoever. I blame the hospital, of course, but it's still upsetting. Nonetheless, it's still a very frustrating experience, and just um, I don't care what propaganda the CDC is trying to push on us. COVID is not over, and just don't get me started on that. Just please continue to be cautious and wear masks. And if you get a suspect cold or a suspect flu, it's probably COVID. Just because you got it once doesn't mean you can't get it again. So I don't know. I'm absolutely astonished. Just astonished. And in the long term, just we're not even going to talk about long COVID. And maybe it's just because I have chronic illness. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to every day wake up and feel fatigued and sick and to have flare ups of illness, and doctors not really, they can manage the symptoms, but there's no magic cure for what I have. I'm just going to have to deal with it for the rest of my life. And it's a post viral illness. It came as a part of when I had mono and stuff. So, long COVID's a post viral illness, and there's indications it can cause brain damage. It can increase the risk of stroke and clotting and blood clots and things like that, and nobody's talking about it. So anyway, like I said, just so not only is having my mom in the hospital because she's sick from she doesn't feel good from something that's not COVID related, but then of course the risk of her picking it up in the hospital because nobody's wearing masks is also very, very stressful, because my mother is in no shape to get sick. Her health is very delicate, and so we have to be very careful with her, and me too. And my dad too, because my dad's at least older, so he's also at risk. But anyway, just in a hospital, people, like, you're around sick people. Like, I never really thought of it before COVID and stuff, but like, had I really thought about it back then, I probably would have been wearing a surgical mask in any hospital at any point if I was visiting somebody, just because the risk of somebody in a hospital picking up any sort of infection or cold or something like that, like, is really high. And so had I known then what I know now, I will probably, regardless of what happens with COVID, for the rest of my life, at least have a surgical mask on anytime I go to visit somebody in a hospital, just as a courtesy to them, because it's just such a risky environment for picking up additional illnesses. I mean, anyway, so she was at the local hospital, and they gave her heart rate was elevated. So they gave her the medicine the doctor had taken her off of, to get her heart rate down because it was making her blood pressure go too low. And of course, they gave her the medicine that she shouldn't have been taking, and her blood pressure bottomed out. So then all of a sudden, she winds up in CCU because they messed something. I hate this hospital. This local hospital, oh, they're awful. I wouldn't take a cat there to be treated. I mean, for obvious reasons, they treat people, but like, even if they, opened up to animals as well, I would not take my cats there. I could tell you that right now. But unfortunately, when it comes to distance, that's really the only choice we have. And so they pumped her full of a bunch of meds. Couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. It was the same thing that happened earlier this year. And they had said there were no available spaces at the hospital she goes to in Nashville, but fortunately somebody pulled some strings and a bed became available. And they life flighted her, y'all. Like, they put her in the helicopter and took her instead of the ambulance. Now, I don't know why. I don't know if it's because she's on Medicare and they're trying to get every dime they can. She was not in that dire of a situation. And of course, my parents didn't tell me until the next day because they didn't want me to worry. But from what I gather, even they were surprised because it wasn't like that. And so I don't know. But at the end of the day, it was the best thing for her because she was in such excruciating pain in her back that an ambulance ride would have sent her over, I think. The last time she had to do an ambulance ride as a transfer, the road condition was so bad and there was so much bouncing. And I don't know if she would have mentally survived going through that much pain on the way to the hospital with all of the like potholes and stuff. So really, it was the best option for her, but it's just like, yikes, really? So they transferred her there, and then they started running tests, and I went to visit her that Sunday, and the biggest thing was she was just in a lot of pain in her back, and they couldn't figure out why. And it was like anytime my dad would like put pressure on it or massage it a little bit, like it would go away. And so it didn't seem like it was her heart or anything internal that was causing it, but that it was an external, like, bone or spine issue. And just days and days of tests. Fortunately, her doctor came in on Monday, and I really like her doctor. He finally started getting some things moving because really they were running all this tests and they just weren't finding anything. And so he comes in and they run some different tests and stuff. What they think initially brought her in was she had a sudden fluid buildup in her stomach, like to the point where they took 5 liters off of her, which I believe is like 10 or 12 pounds worth of fluid. And they think that sudden influx of that 10 or 12 pounds put a lot of pressure on her back when she was up trying to move around. And she had fell earlier in the year, and they think she might have injured it then, but she didn't feel any pain, so she didn't know. And they think it just kind of aggravated an old injury. She does have a lot of arthritis in her back, they found. So, and she did crack a few vertebrae last year, but they were lower on her back. So, they think that was just initially what led her in there. But while she was there, she's had it's called the Watchman device put into her heart to get her off of blood thinners because they were just wrecking her stomach and her gastrointestinal system. It's this little device they put in. There's a little notch in everybody's heart that when somebody has AFib, a lot of times a stroke inducing clot, like a big stroke clot, will form in that little nodule. And basically the Watchman device goes into that nodule, it scars over, and it keeps a clot from forming. And so that's the main place that most doctors, when you're on blood thinners, are worried you're going to develop a clot for a stroke. And the blood thinners were just slowly causing her to fade away, so we had to do something. She got approved for that right when COVID started happening, and had that done. And so she doesn't even take baby aspirin anymore. And don't get me started on the fact that they put her on blood thinners in the hospital because she was laying in the bed and they didn't want a clot to form in her legs, and that she was upset about that because she's, that stuff almost killed her and she doesn't want any of it anymore. And instead of doing it because they thought it was what she needed, they did it because it was supposedly procedure, I guess, to avoid a potential lawsuit or something. And so that was real. Yeah, don't get me started on that. And that was at the previous hospital, not the one she wound up at. But while she was in there, they did an extensive scan of her back. They went ahead and checked the Watchman device, checked her heart, just to make sure everything was going on okay. Because she has pulmonary hypertension, she had a hole in her heart that nobody detected till she was like in her mid-30s. And they were surprised she had a lot of miscarriages, and they were surprised she even carried me to full term. And that was one of the reasons why. And she had to have an open heart surgery when I was in 4th grade. It had gotten to the size of a quarter. And because her body, her veins and arteries and everything had to work so much harder because of that hole for the most of her life, she developed pulmonary hypertension early on and some complications from that, just because of the extra effort that her heart had to go through all those years. And the pulmonary hypertension has been causing the pressures in her chest to be off, and it's causing one side of her heart to feel real like stiff, and it's aggravating the AFib basically, and they think that might be one of the reasons she's having fluid issues. And so they put her on some medication to help with that. And now, the problem is all that medication is causing her issues with her liver, which could also be contributing to the fluid buildup. So they had to sit there and, treat some of the issues she was having with her liver. It was like, the more tests they run, they just kept finding all these little things. And basically, it's like a delicate balance. And she was just getting to the point where she was feeling a lot better and was up and about more, and then this happened, and it just I can't imagine. I'm sure my mother's a very positive person, but I mean, this is how the last few years feels like it has went, where she will start making progress, start feeling better, and then it's like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, and then something will get aggravated or out of whack, and it just really throws her for a loop for a number of months until she can recover from all that and then start building some strength again. And I think it's got to be discouraging. I wish there was something I could say or do, but I mean, I know she's just tired of that happening. And but the good news is she was in a lot better shape. They released her after a week in the hospital. She was in a lot better shape coming from the one in Nashville than she was coming from the local hospital back earlier in the year. Like I said, her doctor's a really good one, and he wanted to make sure that they had her thoroughly patched up. Oh, and the real kicker is she had a blood infection. So what they guess happened, they had an infectious disease specialist involved and everything. What they suspect happened is when she had all that fluid buildup, it was pressing on her intestinal system, and some bacteria from her intestine kind of leaked out into her bloodstream. And the pressure just caused it to happen, because the bacteria they found was what you typically find in the gut. So she's had to be on IV antibiotics. It's standard procedure for 14 days. she really was just showing a little bit of it when she first went in. So now it's just finishing out the antibiotics. Here's the PSA for everybody. Be sure to finish your antibiotics, because even if it seems like the infection's completely cleared out, that's how you get antibiotic resistant superbugs. And that's how you get it to come back and not respond to antibiotics when you don't finish out your antibiotics. So even though mom's tests are showing her bloodstream's clear, she's still got to be on the 14-day regimen just to make sure it's fully cleared out, because you don't want to mess with blood infections. That's where you get like sepsis and all that. So yeah, if it's not one thing, it's 20. And so that was a lot with everything else going on. In particular, I need to actually call her today and see how their week's been. I sorry, had to clear my throat. I went and visited her last weekend when she come home. She didn't seem like she was much up for, a lot of people in the house, so it was just me. And I knew if I didn't get to see her then, it would be this next weekend before I could, because those interviews were coming up, and with work and stuff, I just knew it was going to be a long week. So this weekend, though, I'm just going to call and check up on her. I think they had a couple appointments this week, just follow up, and then they've got a couple follow-ups next week just to see how things are going. But yeah, so that's been hard. I hate it when she goes in there and then it seems like it takes them days and days to figure out what's going on. And like I said, just as soon as she seems like she finds a balance in maintaining all these little things going awry, this kind of thing happens. And so I think it's pretty discouraging at this point, and that's understandable. So it's one of those things you wish you knew what to do and how to fix it. So oh, and that's something else that hasn't helped. So actually, where is my phone? Because I gotta check it. Yeah, no surprise. So I am a Boost Mobile customer, and I do not recommend them. I do not recommend them. I never will recommend them for what they've put me through this past year. Because I had bought a new phone from them, and last September. And my plan was at the beginning of the year, I was going to take the phone and move to Verizon, because reception was just getting worse and worse at my house. And I'm sorry, it's 2022. I'm not going to be prescribed or subscribed to a cell phone plan where I can't even get reception inside my house. This is ridiculous. Based on where I live. Now, I know a lot of people live places where, cell phone reception is still an issue, but based on where I live and how close I am to Nashville, this should not be an issue. And so I was going to switch to Verizon. Well, they kept having trouble trying to get my phone to connect to the network. Come to find out, Boost Mobile had locked my phone, and they refused to release it, because they said that when I purchased the phone in their store, that I had to remain on their service plan for a year. Or excuse me, they would keep my phone locked for a year. And it was nowhere in the agreements that I signed or anything like that. And I try very hard. I know what it's like in a customer service environment, and I know that a lot of times they're just doing what they're told, but that was one of the few times I think I just lost my cool on somebody, because they just kept repeating to me, and I asked to speak to somebody higher up or manager. They refused to switch me over. They just kept repeating the same line to me over and over again. And so I unfortunately was just resigned to the fact that I was going to have to wait until September. Well, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, what cell phone reception I did have in the house disappeared. So I had to go outside. I couldn't even get text messages. Now, here I am trying to wait on, trying to look for a job. I need my phone in order to talk to people in regards to jobs, interviews, things like that. Fortunately, the interviews I had Tuesday and Wednesday were online, and I could just use my Wi-Fi. But my phone's kind of always important, but it's especially important right now. And when my mom went in the hospital, I didn't find out till halfway through the day because my text messages didn't register till I walked outside at one point. So that's been upsetting. And I'm like, I'm, just a couple months, I can handle it. And now my reception's completely gone, even outside. I realized Friday that I needed to forward my cell phone to my house phone just in case this company or another company happened to call me to talk or anything like that. And I had to drive almost half an hour away. You can't set up forwarding unless you have cell phone coverage. And I had to drive almost a half hour away to be able to get cell phone coverage to do it. So I just drove to the middle of nowhere, set it to forward, and drove back. And the thing is, if I hadn't done that, anytime I would have gotten a voicemail, I'd have to drive half an hour away to talk to anybody. So I called Boost Mobile on Friday, and they're like, "Oh, we're working on upgrading your network or whatever." And they're like, "If it's not any better in 72 hours, call us back." Well, guess what? It's been 72 hours and it's not any better. So I had no faith that was going to change. So that's been extremely frustrating. On top of everything else, just worried I'm going to miss a call. And even if I miss the call, having to drive the half an hour just to be able to call somebody back is absolutely ridiculous. So fortunately I have a landline still that I can use as what I forwarded it to, but it's still just, again, I don't have access to my messages. Or if thankfully now if my dad had to call for some reason, it would come through. But I don't have access to my text messages or anything, and it's just so frustrating, y'all. I'm just so over it, and I still have a little over a month to go. And it's not right. They should, if they can't provide service, and basically my phone is useless where I'm at, and it's been, a week. I know it's been a week since this started. At this point, they should just go ahead and release the phone. And anyway, do not recommend them at all, based on that experience. And if you ever buy a phone through a company, like if you buy it through Verizon, if you buy it through AT&T or Boost Mobile or whatever, be sure, even if it's not in the fine print, supposedly, if they put it somewhere on their website where you will never see it, it's illegal for them to do that. So if you're going to buy a phone but you think you might switch services in the near future, be sure to call and check and make sure that they aren't going to basically hold your phone hostage, because that's what they're doing to me, and it's just beyond discouraging. So you best believe this time next month, give or take a few days, I will be switching. They're either going to release my phone or I'm going to have to buy another phone, which really stinks because I do not well, or I may just be stuck with them because financially I may not be able to get a new phone. I don't know. But anyway, it's just been extremely frustrating. So as far as the picture goes, I, sat here and did just a straight color with marker. Then I went over the edges with some different, either the same shade of marker to create a slightly darker outline, or a different type of marker. And now I'm just adding gel pens. It's not really super noticeable when you're looking straight onto the page, but I really like the effect it gives me when I tilt the page and everything. And it softens the line art just a little bit. So like right here, it may not look like I'm doing much, but I just really enjoyed adding this type of stuff to my pictures. It's something I've figured out I just really like doing. So Like I said, it's not super noticeable, but it's there. And, oops, sorry, hit the mic. And on top of all that, Leroy had to go. He was supposed to get two teeth cut out. When he went in for his exam in June, they found that he had a couple teeth. He has a, I can never get it right, stomatitis. There you go. And basically, his body is rejecting his teeth and is causing a lot of inflammation and issues. And so, over time, he's going to lose all his teeth. But he's only like 4 or 5. So, we thought he was going to lose his two big teeth on top this time. And it took, they had to schedule it out. It took a month. Let's see, at the end of June was his appointment, and it wasn't till August 15th or 16th that he could get in for a dental. So my vet's office is extremely busy. And when I realized it was going up against an interview, I thought about rescheduling it, but then I'm like, if he's in pain, that means he would have to wait a whole nother, month, possibly. Why is this slowing down? That's so weird. And I just didn't want to do that to him. So my husband and I were able to get it worked out where he ended up going and dropping him off for me too, which I really appreciated because I just needed all the extra rest I could get that morning. And the good news is he went, and after they cleaned them and everything, they realized that they were still in good shape and he didn't lose any teeth. They also have some sort of new scaling thing they put on the teeth that is supposed to, they just layered over the teeth, and it's supposed to help prevent plaque and buildup, which any of that type of stuff does aggravate the stomatitis or whatever. So it will hopefully help him keep his teeth longer. Oh my gosh, that dental bill was so expensive. But it really does cause a lot of pain and inflammation for the cat. So, it's fine. It's fine. As long as he's doing well. He was super quiet when he came home, y'all, though. Like those first few days, I was really worried something was wrong with him. He was almost half skittish. And I think a lot of it was in his head, he thought he was bad, like something had happened and he had acted up too much, so he had to go stay. He does not like going to the vet. It really stresses him out. And he thought, I guess he was being punished, so he better get in line. So he was really good for a few days, and now he's back to normal. So, and it could be too that he felt a lot. At first, I thought, well, maybe part of the reason he's such a jerk is that maybe it does cause him pain, but and maybe that helped. But no, he's fine now. They gave him an antibiotic shot, so fortunately, I don't have to give him any sort of. I cannot pill that cat. I can barely get liquid med in that cat. His amitriptyline is a transdermal, which means I put it on the inside of his ear. He is impossible, and you will end up probably getting half bit if you try. The one downside was his pre-dental blood work showed his liver values were really high, which is really funny, y'all, and I'll tell you why in a minute. His liver values are high. Like, everything else was fine, but his ALT was high or something. And she's like, it must just be from the amitriptyline. She's like, because he's too young to really have any other issues. So she's like, you can go on to Chewy. So I went ahead and looked into it. There's a bacon-flavored liquid milk thistle enzyme. And she's like, it's bacon flavored. He'll love it. And in my head, I'm like, he's not going to love it. Why do vets do this to me? Every time they're like, here's an enzyme powder. Just sprinkle it on top of their food. It has no taste. They won't even notice it. They notice it. I have to mix it with water and give it to them before the food because they refuse to eat the food. Trust me. 10 times out of 10, I have had all kinds of different enzymes and powders and whatnots to give to cats, and I've always been told that they're not going to notice it or they're going to like it, and they never do. And I think it's just my animals are that particular. like Scamper has an enzyme that's supposed to help her digest food better, because of her recent issues. I have to mix it up a little bit of water. She won't eat it in the food. No matter how well I mix it in there, it's supposed to be tasteless. It's supposed to dissolve entirely. They know something's up. They won't do it. So I ordered that, $40 for a 2 ounce bottle. And I can't not give him the amitriptyline because that helps a little. He has crystals in his bladder, and those kick up real bad when he's stressed out. And the amitriptyline helps de-stress him a little. And so I can give it to him twice a day. I try to only give it to him once. He's a lemon cat, y'all. I'm telling you, like, he just keeps having all these issues. And he's so young. Like, I feel so bad for him. If he wasn't so mean to me, he could be so sweet, and then within just a blink of an eye, turn into Bitey McBiterson. And I don't know why I struggle with white gel pen highlights. At this point, I gave up, and I was just randomly putting in lines. I didn't know what I was doing. I never do. So there we go. There is our finished picture. See, as you tilt it, you can see the little bit of the shimmer on their clothes and stuff, and I really like that. So I had a lot of fun with this picture. This gave me a similar vibe to the Christmas in July picture I did last month with Santa at the beach. It's probably a very similar color scheme just because of the types of Copic markers that I have. But I really enjoy those colors. They're bright, they're vibrant. That kind of bright color just makes me happy. It was something simple, straightforward. It was a fun picture. Sometimes you just want Sometimes I just want to forget about techniques and using a bunch of different mediums and this and that, and just kind of do something simplistic and fun, and that's exactly what this picture was. So y'all are going to get to stare at the finished picture for a while because I'm not quite done, which should be no surprise to anyone. Okay, so what's funny about the fact that Leroy's liver is screwy and he's on milk thistle? I had a follow-up, and it's because of the medication, more than likely. I had to have my yearly physical with my doctor at the beginning of August in order to get refills on all my meds. And so I went in to see her, and she was all like, "You've lost weight, you look like you feel better." I've been on the CPAP for almost a year, and while I'm still nowhere near where I want to be, I do feel, I guess, better than I have in years past. If I could just get my stomach back to normal where it would digest food normally and not screw me up because I ate a potato and it's like, no, potatoes are too difficult. I can't handle that. That's been really my biggest struggle, is just being able to eat enough like fruits and vegetables. And it's hard for me to get a lot of natural fiber because I have gastroparesis and it really slows down digestion. And if I eat anything with a lot of fiber in it, it can cause me nausea. It can cause me fiber and dairy will cause me nausea after a couple days. It causes just a lot of fatigue, lack of appetite, feeling bloated, just whatever. I have to take my Reglan like 2 or 3 times, like way more than I normally do, just to get it through my system. Like my system just it errors out. It's like a computer program. It errors out when it's just got too much to deal with. An apple, a raw apple. I love raw apples with peanut butter, but my stomach does not like them at all. I had a real bad bout of nausea earlier this week, just come on last minute in the middle of the night, and for 30 minutes I was trying my darndest not to throw up, to give myself, sorry, that's probably TMI, but to give the Reglan enough time to work. And once it kicked in, I was fine, but just for 30 minutes, cold sweat, just having to sit up and just try to think of anything else, and just feeling miserable. And anyway, if I could get that squared away, like if I could get that fixed, I feel like I would be doing really well. Anyway, So saw her, did my blood work as usual. Figured I would be borderline pre-diabetic like I always am. With having polycystic ovarian syndrome, I'm at risk of developing diabetes, so they really stay on that. But figured my vitamin B was going to be low again. It was. I have to start going back to get weekly shots again. My vitamin D's low too, so I don't know how much more vitamin D I should take, because now in that blood work the nurse said my liver enzymes were elevated. My AST and my ALT were elevated a little. Not to the point Leroy's were, but they were elevated. And then the nurse, trying to be helpful, I guess. And I don't know why my doctor does this to me. I just had a conversation with her a day prior about my inability to consume a lot of fibrous fruits and vegetables because of my stomach. I have to be very careful what I eat, and most of the time I have to cook it to death. And even then, avoid skins, avoid, a lot of broccoli, anything super tough, because it still wreaks havoc on my system. And so not a day prior I was telling her this, and they're like, well, with the liver enzymes you really should eat more fiber and eat more fruits and vegetables. And I screamed internally, y'all. I screamed internally, I want to eat fruits and vegetables. I can't, not unless I just want to stop eating and really lose some weight and wind up throwing up nonstop, because that's all I'm eating. I take a fiber supplement. I do take Benefil. I'm the old lady. I take Benefil in the mornings to help. So, I do take some soluble fiber to try to keep, as myself as healthy as I can. But she's like, more fiber, more fruits and vegetables, lose weight. And I'm just sitting here like, the doctor was just complimenting me on dropping 20 pounds recently. Like, it's like she just has a disconnect between the person she just talked to the day prior and then what she's recommending. I'm like, I can't, none of this makes any sense. And so I mentioned something to my dad, and he said, it's the meds that you're on. And I just started taking some meds for my heart rate earlier this year, verapamil, and I can never pronounce the other one, metoprolol, something like that. And what's funny is I just started taking those this year, hadn't had any issues with my liver. For years they've tested it because of all the meds I'm on. And all of a sudden now that's popped up. He said the same thing happened when I had to go on medication specific to my heart too. He said, so I take milk thistle. And so he said my values are fine now. My mom can't take it because it interferes because of her liver issues, because she's on too much medication. Boy, doesn't this sound like it's just repeating all this? Mom can't take it because it interferes with other meds she's taking. Now, theoretically, it's supposed to interfere with Ambien, which I take, but I take it in the morning and I take the Ambien at night. I've tried it for 2 or 3 days, and so far I'm not noticing any difference. So it should be good to go. Hopefully this will be what I need to do. If it's still somewhat elevated, and that makes me wonder if some of the nausea and bloating and trouble eating I've been having either are gastroparesis or just because of my liver enzymes. Anyway, that's what's funny about it though. Not a week prior, 2 weeks prior to Leroy finding out about Leroy's liver, then I'm here looking at milk thistle. If I had a nickel for every med that me and the cats seem to share, obviously they get cat-sized doses and I get adult doses, but it's just so funny, the medical issues that the cats and I share sometimes, and the medication, because I've taken amitriptyline before. Maggie was on Prozac for a very small period of time. I've taken that as well. I took thyroid medicine for a while. It's funny, and it's so funny that like Leroy and I both wound up with liver issues, and milk thistle being the solution in like 2 weeks. I don't know. Anyway, but no, Leroy's doing well. Scamper's doing really well. I don't know if she just had a period of time where she had like pancreatitis or something, and she's been slowly able to recover from it, but I'm getting her to eat more consistently. She seems to be more back to normal. We're going to cross our fingers and hope as she comes off the steroid that this continues to be the case. She's even eating at least another type of food, which is nice, because I hadn't been able to get her to do that in months. So the cats are doing well. Um, and my mother's hopefully on the mend. I hope she had a lot better week. That's why I'm going to check on today. See, I can't call them from my cell phone. I have to call them from the house and use long distance minutes. Yes, yes, children. Back in the day, they used to charge you for long distance on the phone, and you only had either your plan only had so many minutes, and that was cell phones too, or they charged you per minute. We have a package that gives us so many minutes of long distance. So, yes, children, gather around while I tell you about this archaic knowledge. Anyway, as y'all can tell, it's just been absolute chaos. Like, ever since my boss told me about that mid July, it just feels like it hasn't stopped. It's just been one thing after another, and I am just so exhausted. About the only thing, I've been coloring some this week, and I'm hoping I feel more and more like it over the next few weeks. The one thing I've really enjoyed, and I'm going to put a link at the bottom, if you've ever played 2 Point Hospital, it's available on Steam and the Switch and on different consoles. It's a lot of fun. You get to build, you have this goal where you build all these customized hospitals with different, to fill different objectives and stuff. Well, they just came out with a college version called 2 Point Campus, and they have all kinds of different colleges where you have like Scientology and gastroology, but then you also have a wizarding school, you have a clown college, you have like all these fun little colleges that you can make, and there's so much customizable in it. I've been having loads of fun playing it. I splurged on it, and I was gonna wait, and I was like, I need something that brings me some joy right now, and it's a lot easier to load up a computer game than it is to get out all my coloring stuff. So I've been playing a lot of that, to be quite honest, rather than coloring, and it's fun. I used to love playing The Sims years and years ago. Played it for the better part of a decade, just almost nonstop. That was the only game I ever played. And the thing was, it got boring because, first off, they never added anything new to the game. Even to this day, they don't really add a whole bunch new. They charge you out the wazoo for all these expansion packs. They do not give that team the budget that they deserve, for the money that they make off that game. But this has kind of got a Sims feel to it because of how much you can customize, like the dorm rooms and stuff. And you get to look at the little people and see which ones are failing and need to go to private tuition and private private study or whatever it's called. And like, it's almost Sims like, but you have goals and objectives. And I think that's why I really like it, because it takes the game that I used to love and makes it a little more structured. And I'm having so much fun playing it, guys. It's crazy. It's been the one thing that's really kind of kept my sanity other than reading this past week. Anyway, okay. So that's all. That's just what, in like a month, this is what my life has been like. And I really need some wins the last 2 weeks of this month. So, any kind thoughts, any prayers, anything y'all can throw my way to make the last 2 weeks of this month better, I would appreciate it. I really could use some wins right now, and just knowing that deadline at work's coming up is just, it's scary. It's really scary. So, anyway, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Tuesday, I should be back with the some color by number flip throughs. Wednesday, I'm hoping to do the Inktense Magical Jungle picture. We will see how the week goes and what news brings, what news is brought with it. Next Friday will be my next part of my coloring book collection. I'll probably do some coloring book cafe books in the beginning, just because I picked those up since I did the video. There's like 6 books, y'all. I know. I know. The digital ones are killing me because they're the cheaper price and I'm getting better deals on them. Um, and then Sunday will be a supply and book haul, but there will be like two, three supplies maybe, and then it's just going to be all books. So I'm just going to warn y'all, it's going to be a very book heavy supply and book haul. And then I guess the next week we'll do the mid-year freak out. I'll watercolor, hopefully, the Precious Cat Pirates picture. And then that Friday and Saturday will be coloring book collection and completed pages. And then all the kickoffs for my tags for September. So I actually seem like I have a pretty good schedule in place the last 2 weeks. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know how things are going with you. Hopefully, your life is a little less chaotic than mine right now. And I hope you guys have a good rest of the weekend. Bye for now.